Hey everyone, I just want to let you know that unfortunately we lost the first few minutes of this podcast. But the good news is it's just Scott and I getting acquainted. There's no important content missing. We pick up right where we start talking about AI, and that is the beginning of the meat of the discussion. So again, you're not missing anything important. It'll take you about 20 seconds to figure out where we are at in the discussion. And I got to say, I'm sorry we're talking about AI again, but it is relevant right now. And frankly, it's an interesting topic, but it's only the first 25 or so minutes of the discussion. So I hope you enjoy. Oh, and lastly, he will be coming back in March, and we're going to continue our discussion because we weren't able to finish. So if you're left hungry for more, don't worry. More is coming. He's already scheduled for March. And we'll get that up then. Thanks again for your support. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it.
For me, like the way I teach online, I adapt essentially to different people and their goals and what they're working on. So for example, if I'm working with someone and they sign up with me for like, I don't know, like a 4-week period, and they really want to focus on color mixing and form, I give them the whole lecture that drawing is, I know you believe, I've heard you say this before. In fact, I know that you keep people on drawing because of how fundamental you sort of see it as. I give them a lecture about drawing. I tell them how they need to work on drawing exercises in parallel, how that folds directly into your form decisions, how you increment out proportions when modeling, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But sometimes I work with people that want to skip the drawing process and they transfer from their photo reference because they're painting whatever.
Oh, you
and
do?
I'm very,
really?
I'm so agreeable, like, to maybe my own detriment or maybe the detriment of my students, but I will be like, look, you should draw, but like you're with me for 4 weeks. We're not talking about someone studying with me.
Oh, you're just talking workshops.
Well, not workshops, but people will sign up. Some people sign up for me indefinitely. I've worked with people up to 8, 9, 10 years online.
Right.
People that are like, I'm taking 4 weeks and that's it. I'll never see them again.
Oh yeah,
and they
that's
just kind of want to
different.
like,
You just want to give them what they need, yeah, or want.
right. So like I will support their decision or I won't comment on it if they want to just trace their photo reference. But
Right.
for myself, I obviously draw everything by hand because first of all, it's an excuse to draw, which is my favorite, most enjoyable sort of problem solving activity. And then also because I think it's just fundamental to the interpretation, which establishes the overall sort of project.
Right.
But I guess I just, the point in bringing that up, and I guess you can fold that into, or you can apply it to the use of AI, is that I adapt to the people I'm working with. People have different goals, different values than me. And I feel like I can adjust to that and I can sort of maximize the results relative to what they're after.
That's, you know what, you hit it on the head. That's exactly how I feel. People have different values, but this is the thing that I am pretty dogmatic about. We're going to have to live with AI. We're going to have to live with artists who are using AI. Even if you and I don't use AI, maybe one of us will, who knows? But transparency about what our values are, I think is key. So if I believe this so strongly. If you want to use AI, fine, use AI. But you need to be transparent. You know, you need to, if you collaborate with another human, then that human signature needs to be on the painting. If you collaborate with a robot, then that robot signature needs to be on the painting, so to speak. That's kind of my perspective on it. Because yeah, we all have different values. If you want to use it, but don't pretend you're not using it is my big hang up.
Yeah, well, so what I would say about that is it's interesting because I think this folds into a lot of conversations I've even heard you have about the use of, let's say, photographic reference. And I know you've had I know a little bit just from your podcast. I know about your own personal history with photo reference.
Right.
I think that it's sort of an interesting thing. So I would say on some human level, like from a moral level, like lying is bad. So if you're engaged in deception, right? Like if somebody says, did you paint that from a photo or did you use AI? And you say no when you did, I would say that's a lie and that's wrong to the extent that lying is wrong.
Right.
And if you use that to leverage whatever your professional career or whatever it is, right? Like, oh, like let's say, for example, you entered into a competition that said this has to be done from life and you can't use AI, and you did, and you lied about that, that would be wrong, like
Right,
clearly.
right, right.
I think where we enter into this more ambiguous landscape is, people who are just posting their artwork and not saying one way or the other. Do they owe you
Oh yeah, I'm
that
talking about my
explanation?
peers. I'm talking about
Yeah, yeah.
professionals. Yeah.
Well, let's say, for example, somebody posts something to Instagram, let's say, and they did use they were like, my new oil painting, work in progress, and like they painted it from a AI reference. Do you feel like they have to hashtag or they have to indicate that in the post?
Yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm right.
What
That's just my feelings on it. Yeah.
what about from a photo versus from life? Like the
Yeah,
people
I
from
mean,
life are going to
yeah.
put hashtag from life, but do you think you have to put hashtag from photo?
Um Obviously not, because I haven't when I used photos.
Right.
But I think a lot of people, and I'm not suggesting this is what you're doing, but a lot of people have compared every single technological advancement to this. Well, they said that the camera was a bad thing, and they said that books were a bad thing, and they said that TVs were a bad thing, and they said video games were, but they're that argument really only goes so far. There comes a point where you have to draw a line, and intelligence, it's literally intelligence. So for me, that puts a hard line in the sand between
Mm,
a photo and AI, because it's literally intelligence. I mean, you're literally giving up mental power of your own to another entity in the
yeah.
creative process. It's not a photo. It's you're looking at the apple or you're looking at a picture of the apple. I mean, but you're not sacrificing a portion of your intellect. I mean, it just seems like a huge jump, right? To me. But again, I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm putting that out there because in 5 years, if I feel different, I don't want to have to yank my foot out of my mouth. But
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely confused about, aspects of it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think about, like, for example, like I think about they talk about it being, like one argument would be that it's theft, right? That it's essentially taking, all of these ideas from other artists and sort of compiling it together. And I was thinking about, well, is it that it's theft or that it's not a human doing it? Like, well, okay, like there's the part of it, like how they, like, I think about all of, I don't know enough about how, AI learns and like where they got all the information. I also do know that, like, as a person who plays video games and I just go through the license agreements and hit agree no matter what all the small sort of print says. We do that with all of our social media. I don't know legally how much we signed away when we post stuff. Like, I don't know that, like, every time I posted an image on Instagram or Facebook or whatever over the last 20 years, that I wasn't, essentially giving them license to copy my artwork, and that we weren't all doing that. So
mm-hmm.
from a legal point of view, I don't really know. I don't know. I could, I just don't know. But I do know that, like, I have a painting over there on the wall, and I was thinking, like, this painting always is kind of funny to me because it's sort of like my brain's version of like what AI does. I kind of took like some kind of classical sort of elements from like my training, and then I combined it with Yoshimoto Amato, I think is his name. He's a Japanese artist who did Final Fantasy R3, but it was Japan's Final Fantasy 6, and he was like this very innovative artist. I loved him, and I did this painting maybe 9 years ago, and I essentially basically took his style and sort of superimposed it with my own. And it was like kind of like an AI prompt in my brain 8 years ago,
Yeah.
where I was basically fully robbing his idea. And so it's kind of going back to that idea that I mentioned earlier, where that's the most sacred part. Like, I'm all for stealing, right? Like, I remember you mentioning in a podcast. By the way, just as a sidebar here, I don't want to turn this into a love fest, but is it your friend Micah that you always do them with?
Yeah,
Is
isn't
it
he
Micah?
great? Yeah.
Oh my God! Like, I just binge watched. I repeat watch those. You did the David one recently,
Yeah,
right?
that was the last one, I think. Yeah.
I don't know if it was him. Maybe it was a different podcast. So this might not be relevant. But I remember at some point you said you took sort of this hiatus and you were going to California and studying these Rembrandts.
Right.
And like I do Bouguereau copies all the time, like Waterhouse over there. And I'm like, I'm full on actively stealing from other artists.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
feel like those are my prompts. Like in my brain, I'm like, Waterhouse, Bouguereau, Scott Waddell. And like,
right.
that's my painting, right? And there's something sacred about the imposition of AI doing that.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not really the theft. I feel like that's what we've
No, the
been
theft
doing.
never
That's what
hung
we've
me
been
up.
up
It's
to.
the same thing. We're all stealing. The theft has
Yeah.
never been a big deal to me. I mean, look at all of us are influenced by somebody. So if we're influenced in the dark because the AI is doing it and we don't know what they're taking, that's no different than doing it deliberately and knowing what we're taking, right? That's not an issue
Yeah.
for me. Now, more of it is just I'm such a believer, and speaking of not getting in the weeds, this is supposed to be about you, so we'll move on in a minute. Um, but the biggest thing for me is just I have always defined art, and I've mentioned this also in the podcast, as having three elements, fine art anyway, and that is that now I'm drawing a blank. That is a good concept, which you talked about. That's your favorite thing to do. Good craftsmanship and good composition or design. You might say the three C's. Um, and if AI is creating the concept, which ironically is all modern art is concept, 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 concept. So now if you throw AI in there to create the concept, what's left, right?
Yeah.
In at least the modern art world. But if you throw AI in there and AI does the concept at the very best, all you have left is, well, because AI is also doing design. So the most you have is craftsmanship. It's just craftsmanship, right? And I remember when I was when I was young and New Yankee Workshop used to be on PBS. And I'd
Hmm.
love that show. I'd get up every morning on Saturday and watch New Yankee Workshop. But I always knew that this guy, I think his name was Norm Abram, was a great craftsman, but not an artist. Because all he would do is replicas of other furniture. He was never doing anything innovative, right? He was a great craftsman. And but then there are other artists like Wendell Castle, who's a furniture maker who makes these incredible, unique pieces. They're all over the internet. There's so many great ones out there, but that are doing incredible 3D functional furniture. And it's very different than Norm Abrams, who is just making reproductions and not coming up with his own ideas. So I feel like if AI is coming up with the ideas and the design, you're only a craftsman. You're making a craft. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now with it. It's just that's why it's so much different than photography for me, because it really it you have to compose a photo, you have to set up for the photo, you have to take the photo. You come up with the idea, you compose it, then you paint it. You still have craftsmanship, you still have concept and design. So big leap to AI when it does the concept and the design for you, and you just simply craft it, right? So that's my
Yeah.
hang up on it.
That's interesting, and I agree with you. Like the concept and the design, I think are so important. And I would say those are probably my weakest things. As
They're
much
the
as I
hardest
believe in them.
thing, in my
They're
opinion,
so hard.
because
Well, I
craft,
don't
you
know
can
though.
learn it. Anyone can learn craft. You just keep putting in the hours, putting in the hours. But the genius is in the concept and design because it's so elusive. It's like you can't pin it down. Objectively, like you can craft. I've seen these incredible videos, for example, where you show all the anatomy of an eye and like everything that goes into building those forms, and it's somewhat analytical and very definable. And but when it comes to design and concept, it's very elusive. It's like, when is it a good design? When is it a good concept? It's like it's hard to really pin it down. So that's where the
Yeah,
art comes in to me.
I, I agree, of course. I think it's been a something of a dilemma for me. Um, because I feel like the chasm between myself, like just technically, just in terms of the craft, the chasm between myself and what I want and what I aim towards is so vast
Oh,
that I've
amen.
felt like I've had to take so many years to just orient myself consistently towards that. There have been these moments where it's like, you see these people that, other contemporaries, peers, um, colleagues that are just doing amazing design, amazing artwork, and then you sort of shift towards that, and then you realize your craft isn't good enough, and so then I return to that. Basically, I'm accounting for why I've probably done so many paintings that essentially seem like the same painting on repeat, because it's like there's this element to the craft that I'm like, when I go and I see an Ang painting, when I see a Bouguereau painting, when I see a Tadema painting, when I see a like Caravaggio, when I see anyone for that matter, De La Roche, who's probably one of my favorite, Van Dyke. When I see those, I'm like, and they're all very different, right? And so, like, my
Right.
precise sort of orientation is, maybe, not aligned to any one of those in particular, but it's like, I am not what I want to be yet. And so I've been reluctant to kind of take the off ramp to design or style or, those other elements. Now that's changing a little bit. Like I'm doing a lot of ambitious painting right now. I'm going back and finishing a lot of work, reworking a lot of work. And having just, crippling anxiety every day about like what my life is about. But I will say that like a preoccupation for large stretches of time has been the craft, at the expense of those other domains.
I'm the same way. I'm scared to death of the other domains. Scared to death of them.
Yeah,
And nothing is more fun than teaching a workshop where you don't have any criteria except to make a good face. Just paint the face, right?
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah,
oh, this is so nice. And I'm with you 100%. I agree that I think all of us that are remotely self-aware would agree that none of us ever feel worthy to do a good composition because our craftsmanship is never there, right?
yeah.
It's like you
Well,
can't, even though I said it's technically, maybe I said it, I don't remember how I put it, the easy part. It's not literally easy.
I
It's a
understood what you mean.
relative term, right? It's incredibly
Right.
difficult and we never arrive.
Yeah.
But the other thing is scares me to death. The other two components, design and composition, they scare me to
Well,
death.
I was thinking about this recently because I was watching your video with Micah, the one on David. And I don't mean to just refer to your other videos. Anyone who hasn't seen this should. This was like such an illuminating video. There was the one when I think that David was in Rome, and it was one that huge one. It was like more figures than I've ever seen in a painting. And I remember you made the point that like he controlled the design with that light effect.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I don't know if you remember this,
Mm-hmm. I
but
do.
like I was just like, it's just to me it's like, first of all, like on every single solitary level down to craft, I can't imagine ever painting anything remotely like that. But it was just like, my God, like the control of composition from
I
that light
know.
effect. And I know that there were like contemporaneous criticisms of that painting. I know this from your podcast, but it was like, from this vantage point, I was like, holy cow, like that is insane that you
Yeah,
can have all of those elements and make an elegant compositional design with that light effect was so crazy to me.
I know. I know. Those are great. He's coming on next week too. I don't know what we're doing. It's always a surprise
Oh,
with
really?
Micah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
he always surprises me. It's fun. All right, well
it's a,
let's get back to you. So get out of this
yeah, yeah,
this rabbit hole of AI that I keep bringing up.
sure, sure, yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
it's fascinating.
it really is. It really is.
And what
But
I'll say to that, can I say real quick before
yeah,
you pivot? Like, part of it's funny because like I feel like to whatever degree I always do it sort of intuitively, but I've always sort of, I'm for me it's uh, like I need to work for a living, like I have to like, make money so that I can keep painting, but I want to paint for the rest of my until I'm dead. I want to paint. And so I've always sort of thought like whatever role I have in the marketplace, teaching and the ideas I have, I've always sort of defined myself from using Blender and explaining these concepts with technology, right? Like I 3D printed models so that I could, paint from them. Like I've
great.
utilized technology,
Yeah,
and I hit a wall after all these years with AI where I was like, whoa, like I
yeah.
was using
That's where I
everything
am.
until we hit that. And so that's a weird thing. Like we finally hit a type, a species of technology that I'm like, I don't know what this is on some level. Like I said before, it imposes so fundamentally on what this is about for me that like it's fun or not fun, but it's interesting to me to finally hit that technological wall. So I love the topic.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll say one more thing on that is the wall to me is This is the first technology in history that can think.
Yeah.
That's not a small thing. Like that's not a small thing. You can't just be like, well, photography and books and blah blah blah. It's like, no, no, no. This is the first one that can think. Like this is different. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know, but it's definitely different. It's wild. We're in a weird world, man.
Yeah. I mean, for all we know, it saves humanity and lets our consciousness
Who knows?
pass on, but like, I guess my point is that we don't know. We're in the nascent stages. So it's like, I can't have a broad commentary on it, but it is uncomfortable. It's
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
it
But the
is.
funny thing about it is like, think about the conversations we had however many 15 years ago about like, is digital art the same as like traditional art? And it's like, like all those conversations we were having like circa 2007 that seems so important at the time, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, and they don't even exist now. But it's like, I don't know, like I feel like we can't see this for what it is. And I think like, what are our options? Just pack it
Hmm.
in, don't paint anymore.
No, that
Like,
can't. That can't. I've
right.
considered that. Can you believe that? There have been days where I'm like, maybe I should just quit painting.
I quit
Um,
certain hobbies because of it, but I'll never quit painting.
yeah. Well, the reason why is because, well, I don't, like I said, we got to get out of the weeds here, but I just, I'm going to leave it alone. I don't want to say
Yeah,
anything I'll
all right.
regret.
Fair
I
enough.
don't want to
Yeah.
say anything I'll regret, but yeah, but there have been moments where I'm just like, oh man, it's just getting too weird. Maybe I should start something, do something else. But I'll never go down that road because then there's
Well, what
another
I'll say,
voice
I
that's
know this
like,
is
no, you love painting. You're not going to quit painting, you
no,
know?
but like, and this is like, I don't want to introduce a thing that like is not the direction you probably want to go with this, but like, and I mean this sincerely, whether we come back to this or not, and you and I could even talk privately about this. I have certain goals that are sort of coalesce, visions of like what I want my life's work to be. I'm 44, and I kind of think about, I had to kind of, you know, drive to survive or paint to survive, so to speak. Like my
Hmm.
last 20 years are like I had to make a career. Like this had to be viable or I had to switch. I have kids, like I couldn't mess around. And now I'm kind of in this position where I'm like, what do I want my life to be about? And it's always been the long game. And I look to you and this work you're doing, this museum and this meaningful work that you're doing. And I saw you in a quick little clip at some point where you were like, there's the ego part, but this is about for you, it's the life of Christ and painting that, right? And
Hmm.
that meaningfulness. And it's like, man, like what you're doing is so inspirational. And I know you're not going to quit. I know you're not going to quit, even if you feel like that. Because you've been around long enough and I have a sense of who you are. But like what we're doing means something, even though we might
Yeah.
have stretches where it feels like it doesn't. But what you're doing to me epitomizes what this is about.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. I appreciate that. You know what's interesting is I don't know if you're going through this right now, but my 40s were rough. Man, when I was about 44, I'm only 51, but dude, there's something about the age that you're at right now for me and my little brother's going through it right now where I was just like, what am I doing with my life? It's like you've
Yeah.
been painting, teaching, whatever for 20 something years. It's like, okay, now I've got 30 more years ahead of me. Am I going in the right direction? Have you gone through that yet?
Well, I will say, and not to, I don't want to make it awkward, but I will say that 40 to 44 have been like tumultuous in my personal life. And so I will say, and I've talked to a lot of people about this,
Yeah.
that your 40s are like a real pivotal moment. I mean, maybe it's
Yeah.
different for everyone and it might stagger one way, or, might shift one direction or the other, but it's weird. And also for me, it's like my kids are older and like just a lot of things that are transitional. I will say that in the last 2 years, I felt like I will say my 30s were about making this viable. I always wanted to paint. I knew if I couldn't make this work, I'd have to do something else, and I wanted to paint for the rest of my life. But now, like I have, like I have a reasonable structure around me, and it's like, yeah, I've definitely thought like, what do I want my life to be? And like I said, I mean, very specifically, but also even generally, I would say when I look at what you're up to, and there are aspects to it that I don't know much about, just what you've talked about publicly. But I'm like, man, like you are someone who's doing like for example, like I hold on to all my work now. I sell none of it. And
Really? Oh, we
yeah,
got to
no,
talk more about that.
I
Okay.
don't think anyone wants it anyway, so it works
Oh,
out.
well, send
But
some to me, man. I do.
but I would just say that like I'm trying to figure. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm in this sort of holding pattern when it comes to that. But I have like pretty big like aspirations in that regard, and that is sort of organizing here in my mid 40s at last. And I don't know if you've ever read Ross King's book about Leonardo da Vinci, but like there's this. Have you ever read that book? It's The
I've
Last
read,
Supper.
I've read it. That's what it's called, The Last Supper.
Yeah, pretty sure because he has like Judgment of Paris is about Mezzanier and Manet. Then
I've
there's the
read
one
that
about
one.
Michelangelo. The Michelangelo one is like the Pope
I don't
and the
think I've
Sistine.
read The
I don't.
Last Supper. I'm,
Dude,
it's good.
okay, so like, well, I'm actually only halfway through it, but one of the most inspirational parts is like Leonardo's like this guy who like he studied for a long time. He worked with this other artist and all these things, like, and he had like all this potential. It was like he's the talented guy, right? And like he's got all of this energy. He's doing all of these things, like architecture, engineering, design, like all of these things, but he never can like really finish a painting or
Yeah,
finish a
do you know
project.
he only did like 15 paintings?
I know. Well, he was in his 40s and he was like lamenting the fact in his writings. Like he's like, I've never done anything. I'm just gonna die and I'll be the guy who had all this promise but
Really?
never did anything. Yeah. But then like finally like it kind of clicked and he finally but even one of his most famous paintings that's in the Louvre there, and it's like of Mary and Jesus and Anne, I think. And like he like you look at it and ostensibly you think it's finished, but he didn't even finish it. He was like carrying that around with him everywhere and like sort of picking at it. But I was like, that's kind of me, like just indefinitely picking at these paintings like I'll never finish. I'm not Leonardo
Oh my
because
gosh, you know what's so funny about that? When I was putting your slideshow together, I Googled you. First of all, there are more of any guest I've ever had. There are more images by you because I always Googled them to put together a slideshow. Dude, you have taken over Google. I mean, it was like,
that's ridiculous.
I couldn't believe
I've
it.
never
Like
Googled
Scott
myself.
Waddell was like, like all the way down
That's
the page.
I'm
And
horrified to think what images appear
no,
in
they're
that feed.
great, but it's a lot of unfinished paintings.
Yeah, yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of it. And I was like, oh man,
yeah.
I know I've seen a million finished paintings of his. Like, where are they? I just think it's funny that you bring that up.
They're here. They're here. Nobody buys them. No.
All
Got it.
right, so let's go back to the beginning. Okay, the way I
Yeah,
usually start these things. Why
right.
did you become an artist? Tell me about how it all started.
I'm one of those people that had like like as far back as I can remember, my identity was an artist. Like I started drawing and at like 2 or 3 years old. Like my parents saved all my drawings. My mom was like she went to art school, but then she became she was a stay-at-home mom, but then she became a graphic artist. So she was artistic and she like really supported that early on. So I don't have a memory in my life of not being sort of associated with drawing
Hmm.
in art in general. And in fact, my grandmother on my father's side, where there's artists in the family, like I guess I never met him, but a great uncle was a professional artist in California. She was like adamant that I went to some art school when I was young. So for
Wow.
me, I've always just, my identity is so like tied up into it, and and I just loved it. As I mean, I was like compulsive, like I was drawing everything. Like I got a Nintendo when I was like 5 or 6. And like I have all these drawings from my childhood where I would just like draw out like 8-bit style, like entire levels that I would
Are
invent.
you
Ninja Turtles.
serious?
Yeah, yeah.
Dude,
And
you
then like
were
when
serious about it.
I was crazy. Like when I was 8 or 9 years old, I was drawing in sketchbooks. Like they were bad, but they were like very comic booky, like very stylized. But in color pencil, I was doing like all these drawings of like Hercules, Adonis. Like I was obsessed with Greek mythology. I had these books on Greek mythology, not like deep, sophisticated reads. Like I didn't have like a sophisticated classical education. I just loved it. I loved anything
How were you
classical.
even introduced to that as a kid? Greek mythology. That seems random.
Well, my parents like were very like my mom like read a lot, and so she was always into things and she
Hmm.
talked a lot. So like
Okay.
we kind of always talked about those things, but I always gravitated towards it. And I always loved like medieval things, and that I can attribute to video games because I don't know if you played video games at all, but like
I
as a
mean,
kid, but like
everyone's played them, but
well,
I
I don't know
wouldn't
if you
say I'm
played them
into
all.
them.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know if you played them like to the degree I played them
Right,
and
right.
played them.
Probably not.
Um, but like there was a game, it's called like Dragon Quest now. I think they like rebranded it, but it was called Dragon Warrior when I was a
Okay.
kid. And it was all castles and sort of medieval and swords and heroes. And that actually is what like captivated my imagination. And my dad and I, when I was a little kid, like little, like 6, 7 years old, we would play these medieval games. And I just like got captivated by anything that felt, it didn't even have to be specifically like painting or art from the Renaissance to the 19th century. Anything old, anything like that felt historical, like was just like made me like feel good, like made
Hmm.
me feel so good. Here's the thing though, this is sort of funny. And I don't think my mom, she wasn't like very knowledgeable about, art history. To the she's passed away for many years, but like so I
Your
don't I
mom?
can't think of. Oh, she's been gone for over like 12 years.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a bummer,
No,
man.
it's okay. I mean, it's hard, but like
Yeah.
but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But she she always collected antiques, and so the house growing up like was always antiques, everything antique. I collected swords. I had like this old sword from like Toledo, Spain that we found at like a little antique fair. But she had these replicas of Bouguereau paintings that I had no idea who Bouguereau was until maybe I was like 18 years old.
Hmm.
But like they were in my bathroom. Like she had one in her room and then one in this other family room. There were these Bouguereau replicas that were just a part of my childhood.
So you knew the
And
image, you just never knew the
yeah,
name.
they were from my entire life. Like there were these Bouguereaus in my house,
Did you
and
love
I
them
had
as a
no idea.
kid, even though you didn't know who
Uh,
they were, or they just sort of background noise?
they were background, but I think they seeped in as like a benchmark,
Oh,
like as a like
clearly.
right. So I think like that
Yeah.
was like art to me. I
Huh.
think the first artist that so to kind of jump ahead, like there was a period of time in middle school that I was obsessed, like what I wanted to be in middle school. And this is not going to be particularly unique, particularly growing up in the '90s when like comic books were so like big, like Image Comics, Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and Spawn and Spider Man. I wanted to be a comic book artist. I don't know if you know, I don't know if you followed comics. So there was a
Mm.
magazine called Wizard Magazine. It was like a pricing guide for comic books, really big in the '90s. And I won a contest when I was 12 years old in there, and I got second place, and they put like I did like a 2-page Batman and Man Bat comic book treatment, like where I like had to do like the comic book pages, and I got second place, and it was like they announced it to my school, my
No
middle school, like
way.
over the
You must have felt like
announcements.
a
I was
rock
like,
star.
oh, like still like actually as I'm talking about it, I'm realizing this might be the best moment of my life. But like for me, like that was like really, really, a pivotal moment, like where it was like I got that feedback, like that public recognition, and like. But the interesting thing was that by the time I got to my like high school, like I got really into acting and theater, and I wanted to be a filmmaker, and so I started just making film, and I would just do art on the side. And I went to college for film, and it was like
Wait, wait, you
I don't
started
even
making
know.
film, that would have been around 2000 maybe?
I went to FSU in 1999, so
So back
yeah.
then, everyone didn't have a fancy digital camera, right? I mean, how are you
We
making
were shooting a
films?
film.
You were
Yeah,
shooting a
yeah.
film?
Yeah. Well, okay. So in high school, I was making movies and entering film festivals. We were shooting digitally, like really crappy cameras, doing the best we could. When
Did
I
you have
got into
editing
college,
software back then?
so I interned at this place when I was in high school in Florida. It's called the Green Machine. I actually remember that. And I was in high school, and they were an editing company, and I interned at them and with them, and I was like helping them on commercial shoots. They were shooting commercials for like local law firms, things like that. And then as a payment for me interning, because I wasn't getting paid, they let me use their editing software uh, on the weekends. And it was like the
No
name of the
way.
software, Media 100. It was similar to Avid. So like yeah, like I was going in, I was shooting these movies. I made a Holocaust movie when I was a junior in high school. Um, I made so many movies when I was in college. Like when I was like 19, I made a Vietnam movie. Like I was like, you
Oh
remember
my
that movie
gosh, we have to
Rushmore?
see some of these movies.
I literally like I have the DVD of them. Like so when I got to college, we got a sick my friend and I, Patrick, still friends. He still does film. We went and we found this
Professionally?
old. He does it like yes, like not like in Hollywood, but he's in Florida, but he does like who's the NFL team in Jacksonville? Jaguars?
You're asking the wrong guy.
I don't know, but he does like professional work. Like he does all
Okay.
their promo stuff. He does like pretty cool stuff. But he and I went to like this old photography place back in like, the year 2000, 1999, 2000. And we found this old Fresolini 16 millimeter film camera that didn't work. We fixed it. And then we started filming all of these films on this old, and we would have to like, you'd
How
get
do you
the
even get them
16 millimeter
developed?
film. Oh, developing was everywhere back then. I mean, this was like digital wasn't everywhere at this point. Like, so we had a
Yeah,
place in
but I
Atlanta
wouldn't
that
know
we
where
would,
to develop video
oh,
film. It's not
we
like you could
learned it
take
through
it to
film
the
school. Like we
store.
learned it like there was a place in Atlanta we would send it off to. And I
Okay.
remember I filmed this whole Vietnam movie. I had this insane Vietnam movie that I filmed in my backyard in Florida, which basically looked like Vietnam. And it was awesome. Like it looked really cool.
Okay, dude,
Um,
we have to put a clip of this in the podcast
okay, I
somewhere.
will send it to you. Like if you can put it in post, let me send it to you tomorrow.
Yes.
And if that's in time,
I would love that. Okay. It goes up
it's
on Monday,
mental.
so we
It's
got to do
totally
this.
insane.
Okay.
But long story short, I was doing film and I think I got to maybe like the year 2000, 2001. And I started like just the itch. Like I was painting, I was doing storyboards for other filmmakers. Like I was doing a lot of storyboards for like masters arts film students or whatever, like the master film department. And it just made me want to draw more and more and more again. And so I started just as an elective, as like just sort of like a side thing. I started taking life drawing at FSU, and I was like, I just fell in love just drawing from the figure, and I just loved it. And like I think it was like I don't even remember at this point, but it maybe like a 6 month period where I had to go to my friend Patrick, who we were making the movies together, and I was like, I don't think I want to make movies anymore. I think I want to be an artist.
Really?
Yeah, and so I switched majors and I became an art major, and then over that 2 year period is probably the most. I'll be interested if we get into this more, like where you were at this point, because I had so many lucky things happen because I know you remember the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It was not evident. It was like you were lucky if you got tapped into the atelier or academic world
No, I didn't
because
even know about them.
yeah,
I didn't even know
right.
about them.
I've been doing Jeff's online mentorship program for about a year now, and it is awesome. Everything is online, super streamlined. If you can be there, I mean, you have the ability to talk to him once a week and he can review your work and help you. If you can't be there, it's pre-recorded. You can go back and even re-watch things if you missed something during class or couldn't be there. So the online portion of it is almost better than real life because you can always go back to it, which is awesome. The demos are recorded. It's just like all available whenever you need it. And I'm a stay-at-home mom of 4 and my time is limited and it's also very interrupted. And so to be able to go back has been clutch for me. And you get to work with Jeff HEIN, who's awesome. He's tough. The assignments are simple, but difficult, and they're difficult to make us all better. And he's able to give us these assignments, coach us through it, help us stay excited to progress. And so it's just been a great experience. I am so grateful that he has been willing to take time away from his own art to offer all of us to have it. So if you're thinking about doing it, it's amazing.
To learn more about how you could have me as a personal mentor, check out the link to HEINatelier.com in the show notes or video description. I got to tell you one thing, though, before we get into the atelier thing, because I think this is hilarious, because you're about my little brother's age. My little brother, I think, is 45, 46. And but it's crazy what 7 years does. I used to make music videos. I was nowhere near as into it as you are, but I think creative minds are very similar. Anything you can create, right? We just love it. But my parents had this huge VHS thing, you know, that you used to put on your shoulder, those massive VHS cameras. And I'd literally be splicing VHS tape to make music videos and like taping it together with Scotch tape.
Oh my gosh. So you were actually cutting the tape together.
I was literally cutting. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but that's what I was doing.
No.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I thought you meant like, because the first editing I did was where you had like a deck of 2 VHS and then you had like a master and you could cut between two like pieces of footage.
This was
on
way
master,
more
but you're
crude.
cutting the actual tape. That's crazy.
Yeah, because I didn't have any money or technology. I didn't know. I'm like, I'll just cut it right here, you know.
Yeah.
It's pretty
No,
funny.
I mean, I love those. I love that. And I love those years that I spent doing that because it made me just very resourceful. You know, it's like I didn't have money either. It's like my dad, you know, worked and like I had a good childhood, but there wasn't an abundance. If I wanted to make movies, I had to figure it out.
Right. That's so cool. Okay, so back to this early 2000s thing. You were curious about the atelier. How did you end up finding one? Because when I was talking to Jacob Collins, I think it was Jacob Collins, he told me when he started his atelier, and that was the first moment it occurred to me that I was literally 60 miles north of it, and I went all the way to Utah to study at the University of Utah, which is glorified kindergarten, when Jacob Collins was 60 miles south of me running the Water Street Atelier. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. I had no idea. No idea.
Yeah, I mean, I actually remember that from I listened to that podcast obviously, and I remember that. Yeah, it made me think about those times and how opaque it was and how hard, you were lucky if you stumbled across it. And what I remember is this. I'll just the long story short. I was at FSU, and obviously FSU at the time, their art program was what you would expect, right? Like for a university at that time. And I remember there was a point in time where there was another person there. I think his name was Alan, a cool guy. And I remember they were kind of like, he was talking about how he had been working for a traditional artist in Florida, Tallahassee. He was working for a traditional artist in Tallahassee, sort of interning, helping stretch canvases or whatever it was. And like they were I remember them kind of joking like that this guy was so passe, he was so old fashioned, he was doing traditional portraiture. And my ears perked up because I was like, that's the thing I'm after, that I'm kind of fighting against, because there's nobody in this program at FSU that's into that. And I was like, who is this? And he no longer worked for him at this time, so he didn't have contact information, but he told me his name, and his name was, and I'm going to assume you know who it is. He's passed away now, unfortunately, but it was Ed Jonas from the Portrait Society.
Yeah, I was friends with him. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm like 19, 20 years old, 20 years old at the time. Excuse me. And so I go home and I just look in the white pages. I look up Edward Jonas. And I don't know anything other than he painted traditionally. In my head, I had this like idea that, it's so common. Like I have so much sympathy for anybody who comes to me and like asks me questions like this about traditional painting, because it's like this was me when I was starting out, where I thought all I had to learn to be Rubens or Velasquez or whoever was I just need to learn how to glazing, right? And so
I didn't have that
literally
exact experience, but I get what you're saying.
Right. So
I wouldn't even have known what glazing was. That's hilarious.
I just had heard of glazing from like a book, and I was like, glazing is between me and being great. Like that's the only thing, right? Like,
are you
I
kidding
just have
me?
to learn. No, I remember thinking like, yeah, everything
That's
else
hilarious.
is pretty locked down right now. I just have to glaze. So I remember calling Ed, and I was like, hey, can you teach me how to glaze? And he was like, I don't know.
You literally
like he
asked him that?
Yeah. I was like, could you teach me? I really need somebody to teach me how to glaze. He's like, you can come over or whatever. And like I came over, and I remember meeting Ed, and I brought some of my work at the time, which was horrible.
How old were you?
And I was 19, 20, okay. 19 or 20, just, like a talented kid, but like not good, right? Like it was not in any way, like it was bad. And so I remember showing him, and he was kind of like gruffly going through it or whatever. And Christine, actually, his wife, came, and she was like, she kind of told him to calm down, like be a little nicer to me, because I think he was being like pretty critical. And he gave me like he was like, you can start, helping me out. And like he was doing a monumental sculpture for FSU at the time. He didn't teach at FSU or anything, obviously, but he was doing a commission for their football team. Anyway, I started working for him, and what happened was, coincidentally, I was at
for him.
Well, interning, like I was helping him, like I was.
So you're cleaning brushes, cleaning his sculpting tools, that sort of thing.
Mostly, he had a workshop. I was like sweeping out, like that kind of thing.
Okay.
Like nothing too intense.
Did you present that idea to him, or did he say, "Hey, you look like a kid who can work"? I mean, how did that happen?
I actually don't know. I don't remember whose idea it was.
I think I don't think
it was awesome. Like it was amazing. Like it had to be him, because I was fairly like, I took the initiative to call him, but I don't think I would have asked him. So I'm going to assume that he like offered me that, because he shortly thereafter offered me, or not offered me. He said, there's a guy, an artist, and this is like the most pivotal in my art development, the most pivotal moment in my life. He said, there's an artist who was 4 years older than me, like essentially 4 years ahead of me. He had gone through FSU, graduated, and now was in New York City studying with an artist who turned out to be Jacob Collins. And this person who went through FSU was 4 years ahead of me. He was like, you should talk to him.
Who is it?
And it was I don't know. Do you know Douglas Flint?
No.
Okay, so you should look him. So my friend, he's like one of my best friends in life.
Okay.
He's not current. He's currently doing something else.
Okay.
He's the most brilliant person I know.
Really?
Period. But like with art. So he basically Ed put me in contact with Doug. And Doug and I began a friendship, and we would talk on the phone. Doug is the most generous. He taught me conceptually in terms of form, specular reflection. I like synchronizing like color conception, the physics of light with form conception, which is really the sort of Water Street thing. Like my friendship with Doug and Doug's brilliance is like sort of like I would say the most formative part of like any content you know of mine, like anything you've heard me say, like the background to that is Doug. I mean,
Really?
truly, 100%. And I'd love if we have time, we can get
Does
more
he
into that or
have
even
a Instagram account with art?
I assume it's still up. You can look it up if you look up Doug Flint, but he has one video that is, I mean, Doug is,
Is it Flynn,
like I said,
Flynn, or FLY?
Flynt.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna look it up right now and see if we can check out his
Yeah,
work.
he's Doug is like this intersection of a lot of things, humility, brilliance. Like he's a genius. He's literally a genius. He would probably recoil at me saying that.
Oh,
But my
Frank, he is
friendship with
good.
him,
How have I not?
he's
Well, because
he,
he's not doing art right now. That's why I
he's
haven't
not
heard of
doing
him.
it. He's not doing it right now, and you know he's probably I think between your age and my age. So he's
Whoops.
doing
Double
something
done.
else right now. He's got young kids, but he's a genius. He's a super genius,
Oh yeah, these are good. Dang.
and his clarity of thought. He so
Huh.
there's a long history between water. When I studied with Jacob Collins, we called it Water Street, but it was when it was in his private studio in his home at the time.
Yeah.
This was before GCA. So you had Water Street in like literally Water Street in Dumbo, Brooklyn, the early days, the 90s. And then in the early 2000s is when that sort of stopped and it went to his private studio, which is when I studied there. That's at the same time as like people like, Mike Klein and other people I know you've had on the show.
Yeah.
And then around 2007-ish is when GCA formed. And then, of course, I started teaching there full time in like 2008. And then GCA has had several different iterations. But I would so obviously Jacob is the founder and Jacob's Jacob Collins, right? We all acknowledge his role in this. What I will tell you for my own part, and for a period of time from approximately 2006 to maybe 2009, there was this hidden element to the Water Street culture into early GCA culture. People like Joshua O'Rourke. There were a number of artists that were influenced heavily by the coherence and sort of comprehensive conceptual framework that Douglas Flint was teaching. And I will say more than any other thing, I mean, part of it was the lucidity and the clarity of his conceptual framework, which heavily influenced all of the content I've ever made. But I will say the assemblage of ideas from the pure form concept that Jacob was pushed so hard back then, and then color theory and bringing those two worlds together into this like larger coherent picture. Doug is the guy behind that. And there are a number of people that were, whether through me or directly from him, were so heavily influenced by that I think Doug is downstream, like even this many years on, when you see people like I know, like some people I met recently that teach at GCA now, when I was in New York last December, there is still this downstream effect of that. Like some of it comes through my content, but it was Doug.
Wow. I had no idea. Why isn't he doing it anymore? I mean, with that kind of brilliance and impact?
I can't speak entirely. He's one of my best friends, so we talk. He had some life things come up and opportunities come up that were, at least in the short term, more attractive. I can't say
Oh,
more
okay.
than that.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Wow, that's so interesting. You know what though? People are complex, and a lot of people have a lot of interests. So more power to him. I hope he's doing something he loves.
Well, it's a funny thing. It's kind of funny, right? So mine is has been so we were talking earlier about like, creative people just have to create, right? And like whether
Right.
it's film or whatever. And it's like, my compulsion for the last 22 years, and maybe my life really, like I loved movies, but like there's a reason why when I took a couple life drawing classes, all of a sudden I was like, nope, I'm an artist. Like painting, I don't have hobbies. Like I paint. I paint. Nowadays I don't
Really?
have hobbies. I play video games and I paint. Um, and I have kids. Um, so uh that is like me on some level. But Doug is interesting because the thing he's doing with his life now, which I won't go too much into, but it requires problem solving, but a totally different kind of problem solving. And when he and I talk as friends, I see the excitement in him when he talks about the nature of the problem solving, which is purely analytical. It's not visual. It's not, I wouldn't even say conventionally it's creative. But for him, the kind of problem solving that he's doing in the domain he's in now scratches the same itch as it did when he was problem solving in art, which is crazy to me. For me, I have to paint. If I don't paint, I feel depressed. Like if 24 hours goes by and I don't paint, like there's something happens to me psychologically to where I just turn into like a Bergen from a Trolls movie. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, your Doug sounds like a bit of a Da Vinci himself. I mean,
Yeah.
just maybe, yeah, obviously is able to get stimulated by a lot of different mediums or a lot of different
Yeah.
subjects.
Well, he was, and it's crazy because it's like there's so many things we take for granted now, at least like in this sort of space that I teach in that that kind of overlaps. I don't know how you teach color, but like, like when I explain color and hue, value, and chroma relationships, it's totally associated with the light effect and physics. And I can't say I can explain everything. And it's not like as, crazy in depth as that might sound on the surface. It's basically like, let's say, for example, the way chroma and value sort of function together in relationship to a light effect. I can rationalize my way through it. I can talk about different types of reflection or light passing through translucent forms and sort of rationalize color, in the same way that I might talk about form itself. And the funny thing is, and I don't know what your experience of like these topics, because you're just such a brilliant painter. Like I don't know how you've assembled it over the years, but like I know for myself, my view into this in the early 2000s was like there's form, get on the form, make it look 3D, and our basic expression of that was value. And when it came to the other properties of color, we were treating that as more visual. So it was like there's form, you make form, and then it's like, what color is it? And it's like, I don't know, just look at it. And like we didn't
Mm.
have this like cohesive view of it. Whereas Doug was like, no, color is a part of the physical world. This is how it works together. It's pretty easy. And like for me, like that was a major, major milestone for me is understanding that.
Oh man, I want to, obviously this isn't possible, but I want to pivot and just have you teach me a few lessons. I'm really curious about what you mean by that. I think,
Yeah.
just briefly to sort of explain to you where I'm coming from with that is it probably is more like that GCA. I always get that wrong. GCA. Where it's there it is. There's the color. Look at it. Right? There is obvious, well, maybe it's not so obvious. I mean, I think most artists have some knowledge of color and the physics of color, but I envy what you're talking about. It sounds like you really thought it through.
Well, I mean, again, like, I mean, listen, it appealed to me and I feel like I ran with it. And a lot of my videos elaborated on it or at least tried to like reinterpret it in a way that I thought was interesting. I will say just, to credit due where, GCA is like for a long time, teaching in that perspective too. Like, there's a number of people that I talk to there now that teach there and they teach the same thing, the same conceptual color. I think I was speaking more to like those early days at like, Water Street or, like we were, and I don't know. I literally have not talked to Jacob Collins in 10 years. So I don't really know his perspective now. I have the memory of when I worked for him for a long time and then I studied with him. And, he had a way of like sort of siloing information. So it's like, I don't know how much he personally knew. Like I can take anatomy as a topic that I know at the time he knew in depth, right? Like
Hmm.
he was brilliant. but he would limit the degree to which he would talk about anatomy when he was teaching form back in, like, say, 2004, because he felt at the time, my interpretation was that he was worried that people would start like sort of over conceptualizing anatomy,
It's
and that would
creating
take them
comic
off
book
of this
characters.
comic book characters. But he was so intent on us having this experience of the continuity of form to where
Yeah,
you were crawling
yeah.
over the surface, and I mean, I think I don't know how he or a number of people would, feel about this idea of like turning the form or traveling over the form in that way. But what a lot of people, even, I'm not sure how much, like, I love the description, but this idea of like window shading or finishing as you go, on some level, like the meaningfulness of that is about the continuity of surface, that you're problem solving in a way that you're just so firmly attached to that surface, and sort of transcending the picture plane so that you can experience that three-dimensionally is really sort of what is fundamental about that. And I think that because Jacob's critiques, by the way, and I've joked about this in my own videos and stuff like that, but like when I applied to study with him, I mean, he said very clearly that, like, this is kind of a working studio at this time. It's not really a school. I may or may not teach, right? And for me, like, it ended up being, I feel like I studied at the absolute best time, because it was at a point in time when he was painting a figure show. And so I just watched him paint figure painting after figure painting. And for me, like, I could not have been more lucky in that regard. He did not teach a lot, but our critiques consisted of, like, he would walk by, like, I think I had like 3 or 4 critiques in the 2 years I studied. One of
Jeez.
them, he walked by and he was like, try not to make it suck, which, like, honestly, like, to this day is like the main advice I try to follow. But like,
Oh, shoot.
the the ethos at the time, the main concept was like, get on the form, whatever that meant. And you would toil for hours with this idea of like, what's it mean to be on the form? For me, it's essentially feeling like you're sculpting and, imagining that it's a three-dimensional surface that you're making. And of course, into that is light effect, color, all the other pieces of it. But fundamentally, it's just about making it look 3D in space. And the deep meditation on that, like, I think he just simplified to that idea, because I think he just understood that in our place and time, that was and I look at it now, this many years on, this far removed, and having sort of reinterpreted it from my own vantage point many times over the years, that's what's fundamental. When I look at the Renaissance, which is my favorite period in history, through the 19th century, the common denominator through the Renaissance to the Mannerism to Baroque to neoclassicism, so on and so forth, is form. Like, the stuff is three-dimensional, and it's negotiated as three-dimensional surfaces, even with And so it's like, at the end of the day, it's like I kind of always return to the simplicity of that teaching, which is get on the form, make it look 3D, transcend that picture plane.
Oh, I've got a lot of questions here. Okay, but number one, I gotta just get. I hate to put you on the spot, and I can cut
No.
this out if you need to pause for a minute. Give me one short tidbit of the science of color or color theory that I or my audience might find interesting. That's not obvious. No color theory is obvious,
Okay.
so drop the last line. You get what I'm saying. Just give me
Yeah.
something, because I want to know if I'm even because sometimes I find that when I talk to other artists, because I'm sort of a weirdly trained artist where I went to 3 universities and a lot of it was garbage. I had a few good teachers. Da, 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 da. So a lot of times when people say stuff, I think I don't know what I think I don't know what they're talking about until they explain what it is that they said, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. So that's what I'm kind of curious about. Just give me
Yeah.
one thing. I'm wondering if I'm even on the same page.
You know, uh, there's this painting of yours that is it. There are a few paintings that stand out to me, by contemporary artists that are so close to the thing I'm after, like, which is, this, tradition of painting. So I love the whole painting, and it's super ambitious, right? It's a multi-figure painting. You had to pull a lot of stuff together. I think it's one of your early, like, really big multi-figure paintings. I am so sorry that I don't know how to refer you to it, but there's this painting of a woman it's one of your early Christ paintings.
Okay.
Uh, and there's a woman with dark hair that's sort of in the foreground. Anyway, if I can't like pin it down, this painting, I actually saw the detail of her face, and you painted this from life. I think you indicated that.
I think I know the painting. Yeah.
This color structure, your chroma structure, your hue structure, everything about it, like in its relationship to the value, structure, and form and light effect is so good. It's so good. You know, like that painting, that face. I remember seeing that and being like, okay, like I need to work harder. There's that painting. There's a painting by an artist. Do you know Rachel Lee? I think she still teaches at GCA. She has this one portrait, might be like one of the best portraits by anyone around today. There's a few paintings, yours, that one. Like there's a few that come to mind where I'm like, this is so coherent.
Did she sell that painting to Michael Klein's museum?
I think it's there. I'm virtually certain it's there.
The name of it. Yeah.
That painting is insane.
It's so
but your
good.
painting is too.
I felt the same way about that painting. I'm like, I got work.
I don't even understand it. But yours too. I don't like when I see something I don't understand, like I can't understand how someone did this. Like, you know, which is how you feel like with almost like every painting from the 19th century to the Renaissance,
seriously.
right? Like,
yeah.
Right. And it's like a lot of contemporary paintings, like by people like nowadays, my peers and colleagues who are like, I might admire and might be past what I could do. I can look at it and understand. But like, there are some paintings that I'm like, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Anyway, like, so I think like you're like the fact that you say to me, like, maybe you're missing something. I think of other works of yours, of course, like you have so many great works, but that one, I'm like, that's like a high level for me. So it's kind of funny that you say that. I wonder like if you feel like you don't understand all these little pieces, I'm like, you're doing it on such a deep intuitive level that I'm kind of like, all right, well, I don't know what I'd have to add to that, but I'll say this. Okay, here's just an example, right? So historically, in this sort of form-oriented, get on the form, model the form, make it look, 3D sort of mindset. Like this was mostly expressed through value, and of course, we start with cast drawings, right? And so you're limited to value, being that it's a drawing, and then you do grisaille and so on and so forth. So I could say so there's two main types of reflection, right? Diffuse reflection and specular reflection, or form light and highlight. And I could say something to you like, let's say, for example, like the lightmost facing point of a ball or a sphere would be the lightest in value when it comes to that diffuse reflection, if it were perfectly matte. And then as we turn around from that light source or that orientation of the light, it's going to get darker and darker in value until we reach the terminator and it plunges into shadow. Now, the nature of that turn is going to depend on the distance of the light source, the scale of the light source, the diffusion of that light source, the focus of that light source, so on and so forth. So there are attributes to the light source that will affect and sort of spatial proximities and shapes and dimensions, geometries that will affect the nature of that drop off around that sphere. But nevertheless, it's suffice it to say the lightmost facing point is going to be lightest in value, and then as we near the shadow edge or the terminator, it's going to drop off in value until we go into that shadow. The shadow itself is going to be determined by ambient light, environmental lighting, reflective light. Like if you were the dark side of the moon in the vacuum of space, you would have nothing in the shadow. Right. If we have walls, if we have a room, if the value of the walls are dark, light, blue, whatever. I shouldn't add color to this yet, but in any event, those conditions of the room and reflected light sources are going to determine the shadow. So we can talk about value in this very rational way that almost anyone you're talking to, artist or non, is going to be like, yeah, of course, like the light's pointing there, it's going to be brightest. And then you can fold into that so people have a more sophisticated understanding of the difference between highlight and form light, or specular and diffuse reflection. You can say, look, the highlight is more like a mirror light, or is a mirror-like reflection. So it's angle of incidence equals angle of reflection. It won't be at the lightmost facing point unless you yourself are sharing space with the light source, wherein the light would bounce right back to you. So if the light's coming from above and you're looking head on, halfway between that point, there's foreshortening that accounts for an adjustment there. But that highlight is going to specularly reflect the angle of incidence equals angle of reflection and be halfway between that lightmost facing point and your line of sight. And so you can start to rationalize your values in that regard. You're like, lightmost facing point is going to be lightest in value. It's going to drop off around it. But we have an exception here because there's layered on top of that 5% of the surface is reflecting specularly. And so we're going to have a highlight that's going to be lighter in value. Okay.
My gosh, your vocabulary is amazing, dude. I understand everything you're saying, and I know everything you're saying, but I could never say it like you just said it. It's brilliant. It sounds amazing.
I guess it's this many years of regurgitating the same thing. Well, so let me just real quickly fold that into color very, very quickly. Okay. So we took that kind of thing for granted, and it was totally rational, and it felt like a totally coherent conversation to have that about value. So now let's talk about chroma, right? So the intensity or saturation of that color. Let's not talk about local hue shifts where my cheek might be more yellow up here and more pink or red down here, right? So just in terms of the saturation, if you had a sphere now that was like all things being considered, we turned on all the lights, like it was one uniform color. We painted the sphere one color. And so we were just talking about chroma. The lightmost facing point would be, why is it lightest in value? That's because we're essentially seeing more of the sphere there because more light is interacting with the surface. So to that end, or for the same exact reason, it would essentially be most chromatic at the lightmost facing point, right? And so you now have this chromatic structure that by and large follows the value structure, right? So if this sphere were perfectly matte, had no specular reflection, no highlight, right? So you had the lightmost facing point, and then you had the shadow edge. We could expect it dropping off in value. Now this is exponential, and that's a whole other conversation, right? It's not like a sum game. And so it's dropping off in value according to a certain scale. It's dropping off in value, but it's also proportionally dropping off in chroma, right? So we're seeing less of the sphere, less of the light is striking the surface per square area. So you're seeing less of it. It's getting darker in value and lower in chroma. Now, of course, the specular reflection, it depends entirely on the nature of the light source itself. So if you're working with I have a full spectrum bulb up here, so we can functionally talk about it as being neutral or white. And so the highlight is going to be very neutral under this, right? So if I have let's say my ball is painted orange, then my specular highlight is going to be lighter in value, and it's going to be more neutral. It's going to be more a mirror-like reflection of the light source itself. And so now I have this chroma structure that first follows the value and then behaves a certain way, another way with the specular highlight. Now you have other things that you can layer, and I'll just say this briefly so we can sort of limit this conversation. Now, if this were, so far I haven't said this, but the sphere that we're imagining is opaque. Now, if we imagine it being translucent, even to the subtle degree that flesh is, which varies depending on what zone you're in, now you have light transmitting through it. Now the other things come into that conversation, like epidermis, subdermis, like those inner layers. Do they have a different color? Is the absorption different, right? And now the surface is essentially acting like a filter, right? And so you have the light coming out that other side. And then you can layer on top of that reflected light. So I have a shadow here under my nose for an above lighting, but I have my upper orbicularis oris bouncing light up in there. But this as a light source is selectively absorbing. So as a light source, it's a different color than my neutral light source, right? And so I can have certain expectations that influence essentially my interpretation of what's happening. And so I can have certain expectations, or I can refine my observations and my interpretations based on this conceptual framework. It doesn't mean you override. Maybe you do. Maybe you do because for whatever purpose, or maybe you sort of emphasize or accentuate certain attributes, right? It certainly helps you interpret like paintings of old, whether or not they were using the same language. You can look at Rembrandt, you can look at Van Dyck, you can look at Bouguereau, you can look at whoever and be like, whether or not they were aware of this, or like, it kind of makes me think of, and maybe everything I'm saying to you is the apparatus that you use or the framework that you use. I don't know. But when you tell me that you feel like you don't quite deal with all of this stuff, I look at your work, and it's why I highlight that portrait. I'm like, that so much of your work, but that portrait is like one of my high watermark, like one of my
That's really nice to say.
I mean, but I don't even mean it to be nice. Like, I mean, I like being nice because it feels good socially, but like, but it happened. Like, I picked that one out because that's one that stood. I was like, all the boxes are checked here. Like, holy, like, that's a painting.
Well, you were the one person on Instagram that liked it then.
Who didn't like?
It's just, what Instagram is. It's so funny. Multi-figure paintings never get attention on Instagram.
Okay. That goes back to your point. Like, I have a ton of, I have some around here that I was going to show, but we probably won't get into it. But it's one of the reasons why I get so many views, so much traction, and I look at Instagram as just like a funnel for my business, not in a shrewd way. Yeah. Like, I love it, and I like the things I post, right? Like, I only paint things I care about, but I limit what I post to the things that get the most traction because
you've got it down. Yeah.
Well, it's like whenever I post something that's finished or multi-figure, it gets like 1/10 of the, and it's depressing.
Isn't it wild?
all it does is talk me out of doing it. So I'm like, why am I going to do that? This isn't for this. This isn't
Yeah.
for this platform. I don't know what platform it's for, but it's definitely discouraging. And so I protect myself from that.
Yeah, that's wise. That's actually, and I've been doing that lately. I haven't posted my multi-figure work in a while. And people are like, I want to see it. I want to see it. I'm like, you actually don't.
Yeah, you probably like
The
the metric
algorithm
says you
says you
don't.
don't want to see it at all. So I'm not even going to post it.
I mean, Instagram, I have a harder time insulating myself when I've never seen a metric on YouTube, at least in the last 8 years. I have this whole thing where whenever I post on YouTube, I have no idea. I know nothing. I go in and I go like this. Yeah, I go like this. When I post, I block out all of the information about views or anything so I can just see the area where I post and make it live. So I actively protect myself because all I know is that information. It's just going to discourage me. Instagram's a little harder. I would say people are very positive with me on Instagram, but then at some point, like in the not too distant past, I saw somebody, and this was a mistake. I know better. Somebody was like on Instagram, they said, I love your work. I don't know why everybody on Reddit hates you.
Oh,
And I was like,
snap.
what are they saying on Reddit? And so I looked myself up on Reddit and I found this horrifying thread. And so I was like, just like sulking for like
Oh,
2 weeks.
dude, that
So
hurts.
it was bad. It's something about like when you try to paint like really tight, for better or worse, like I feel like it invites a certain amount of hatred from a certain section of the art world.
Oh, doesn't matter what you do. Someone will hate you.
Maybe that's the case.
You
Maybe
know,
that's
I,
the
even
case.
on the podcast, every now and then I'll get some schmuck that insults one of my guests, and usually I delete it because I'm like, yo, this is not
Oh,
a
really?
democracy, man. I'm in charge. It's my podcast. So if they don't like it, suck it, you know. But I'm like, what is your
Yeah.
deal? Why do you got to insult my guests? They're here. It's rare, but it does happen. And it's like they're here volunteering their time and giving you their information
Yeah.
and their
Yeah. Yeah.
feelings, and you got to be a jerk about it. People are most people are nice, but there are some jerks out there. You say,
Well,
yeah,
the jerks stand out. You're right.
they do.
Absolutely. Most people are so nice. And
Yeah,
it's
most
like,
people are.
yeah.
Well, everything you said, everything you said, I do think about, but there's something
Yeah.
about the way you say it. Golly, man, I wish I could speak like that. You must have a super high IQ, dude. It's
I
great.
don't think so. I'm sure I don't.
But I do
I'm
think
sure
about
I
that
don't.
stuff, but I think for me it is more intuitive. It's
Yeah.
because I wasn't taught it verbally, right? It's sort of I picked it up and I've kind of churned it around in my head, but I've never put the language to it in the way you have. I mean, it's brilliant the way you say it. It's great. It's very
I
easy to
remember,
understand.
do you know Travis Schlatt?
Yeah, we had lunch a couple months ago. Yeah.
So he like, I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a long, long, long time. But he was always he still is. He's one of my favorite artists. But early, I remember when I was first studying with Jacob and he was like already an alumni. And like I remember he was teaching like a little class in the like one afternoon at Jacob's. And like I think like uh some of the thing I picked up on him, like he was doing certain things, and I remember like just getting the sense, and I don't know this, I had the sense from him that like so much was just like operating intuitively with him, like because he was
Mm.
kind of painting different than us, like it wasn't like crawl over the form, and it was just like he would just tap into this brilliance in his paintings, especially seeing him in real life. It was like he got that thing that was just like that magic
He
permutation of
is a brilliant
brushstroke.
painter, no
And
joke.
like, and it was just, I don't know, like maybe he could sit down and explain every decision he made, but like some of it just looked like it was like just coming out of him. I think he
Yeah.
understood it intuitively, but like he always stood out to me as like, man, like that's a guy who like just intuitively it like is like an art output, I guess.
Yeah, and he's the freaking tree, man. I was shocked when I met him. He's like, what is he,
Yeah,
like
he's
6'7" or something? He's a monster.
he's upsettingly tall.
Yeah. I felt like a little boy. Like I needed to hold his hand when we crossed the
Yeah,
street.
when I study it, like I'm 5'10", so I'm always like, okay, like like it's I like to think of it as average. But like when I was at Water Street, like other than like Joshua LaRock and maybe like one other person, everyone like Jacob's tall, everyone was tall. Like I felt like a little like hobbit. I felt like such a little hobbit there.
5'10" is totally normal. That's hilarious.
No, but they were all like giant,
Well,
like
you should
all of
come to
them. It was
Utah with
really
all the
annoying.
Scandinavians, man. Utah's got some
Oh,
tall
that's
people.
yeah. Yeah, like I live in Tampa now, and like I don't know if it's the sun. Everyone here's I feel like it feels aggressive. I'm
The
kind of tired of
sun,
it.
it's photosynthesis, man. It adds a
It
few
might be.
inches. Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's
funny.
weird.
Well, we have got, this is such a great conversation. can I have you back on at some point? Because this is
Yeah, yeah,
great. Okay.
anytime. Anytime.
But you've got to pick up your son. We've got about
Yeah,
25 minutes. So I want to pull
yeah,
out some of that work that you brought.
sure.
Let me grab that.
I have, yeah. Oh, I sent you a thing. I thought this would be kind of fun just because like some of the things, because like I don't know if you want to go through any of it, but like
No, I do.
I spent a lot of time like doing maquettes and different things. Like I even like this is like my old boat, like wooden boat for my whaling
Dude,
paintings.
that's sick.
Yeah, this
That's
is a
sick.
perfect
That's
scale model.
nice.
It's to scale. I mean,
What'd
it
you
was from a
make it
kit,
out
but like
of? It's like
it's all
paper?
wood. It was a kit, it's splitting, but like you had to like steam the wood, like you had to make it the real way. Like it was high end model, like
That's sick.
no joke.
You know, I just made a boat, right? Did you know that?
That's why I thought
Oh,
of this.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah, yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, all right, let me see. Let's pull up your work here real quick. The maquettes are so fun. I could
Oh my
seriously
God.
see myself just making maquettes for a living. It's so much
Well, I know you
fun.
do woodwork from your podcast. I know you do woodwork and everything. Like I felt like
Yeah.
it was a real struggle for me. I'm not good at that kind of thing.
Well, here's the thing though. If you don't have the hobbies, you don't have the tools. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
everything is easier with tools. That's the thing. So,
yeah.
and I have a lot of tools because I've always done this kind of thing. Okay, so
Right.
this is your Instagram, but let me pull up and you're right, man. You know, this is the stuff that really gets attention, like details of work.
Oh, I mean, it's definitely. I mean, you can just like look. It's crazy. It's like and it's like hard not to like if you're you know selling classes, selling videos, selling workshops, like you're gonna do the things that get like
Yeah.
attraction, and it's
Yeah.
like, and I'm perfectly open about that. Like, and I tell people all the time, like, cut your videos this way, put this kind of music on them, like, and like you're probably gonna get more views.
Yeah, that's
Oh, that
that's
one's funny. So that you know what that is? I'm
yeah,
gonna
what
tell
is
you what
that?
that is. Okay, so this is me. All right, this is me right after I meet Ed Jonas. I'm 20 years old, maybe.
That's good, dude.
That was me in college. I think I met Doug, and Doug told me yeah, no, I met Doug. This might be the first. Okay, so there's like, I put a few paintings in this folder for you. These were my paintings from FSU,
Okay.
and Doug taught me form. And I was like, okay, like I was just like trying to copy what I saw. I was copying Norman Rockwell paintings. I was doing these paintings.
Okay.
And Doug was like, told me form, get on the form, like finish as you go, start in an area. So this was my first one where I was like, okay, and I set up two mirrors and like I painted, like I just started in that bright area. And like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I'm going to try to make it look 3D and according to form. And like that was after like a few conversations with Doug about form before I went to Florence, before I went to Jacob or anything.
That's
And I thought that was
really
just kind of
good,
fun.
man.
I've
Especially
never
for
showed anyone.
19. Really?
I've never showed anyone like
Okay,
these
everyone
few
saw it
paintings.
here. Undraped
Yeah.
artist.
Maybe it's on. It might be on. It might be somewhere from my
I
old
love it.
blog
I'm
or
so
something,
glad you
but
showed it here.
not in any recent times.
That is gold. That's really good for 19 or 20, man. Especially with no training at that point.
That's the other one. So I did that back after. So that was right before I went to
This is
Florence
you?
Academy. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You look different
yeah.
without a beard.
Already balding before. That's why I have a hat. But like, no, that was I think at my parents' house right before I went to Florence Academy. And so I went to Florence Academy because I had an Art Renewal Center scholarship for the semester. And Florence is great. Like it's amazing. But like I wanted to paint like Jacob Collins. I wanted to paint like that way. Like I loved
Yeah.
it. And so like when that opportunity came up, I went there. And so this painting was me trying to do form from phone conversations with Doug about form at my parents' house as I was saving money to go to Florence.
You got natural talent coming flowing through your veins, dude. That's
I
impressive.
was into it. I mean, I did it a lot. I had a lot of, and that's the other one I did at that time, and I never finished. But I
Oh
always
my
liked that
gosh, you
one.
were already good before you even got to Jacob
Yeah, I
Collins.
mean, okay. Like you could see how like bad these photos are. Like these were like cameras at the time. Like I think you'd be horrified if you saw it in
No,
real
I
life.
wouldn't be
But
horrified. I
it's
mean, you got
something.
it. It's obviously you're better now, but come on. 19 or 20 with no training? That's impressive.
I was definitely like I had this catalog of Water Street, the early days, and like Patricia
Yeah.
Watwood, all those people were in it, Grimaldi, and like I remember just like that was like my Bible. I was like looking at that and trying to do that. Oh, So this is kind of fun. Like these are so this is like me trying to like this is how I come up with ideas even to this day. This was like 20 years ago. And I just do a lot of these drawings. This was like from Herodotus, some kind of thing like that. And I
Huh.
just thought you would like this because it
Heck
just like
yeah.
like I
These are
come up with
way
this.
better than my concept sketches. Mine look
I mean,
like terrible.
I mean, if you see like here, I'm doing this painting of Saint George and a dragon. I'm doing the same kind of thing like here, like just these little color sketches, the dragon.
Whoa, whoa,
I
whoa, whoa,
do
whoa.
this is
Slow
like
down, slow down, slow down. Hold on. I want to
oh
see that
sorry.
again. Let's see that again.
Okay, so like I have some drawings of it, but like yeah, like so this is like
Oh,
just
that
from
dragon is sick.
imagination.
You made that up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There.
Well,
See,
okay,
that's where
so
that understanding of form really comes in handy when you're making stuff up.
sorry, wait, what direction are we
It's
going here? Okay, so
backwards. Yeah.
I'm making it up, but like I did base it on like so. I really love some of the depictions of Saint George and the Dragon or Sant Jordi in Barcelona. Like is because like there's like versions of Saint George that like are region specific, right? And
Yeah.
when in like in Barcelona, he's like I go to Barcelona all the time. I was just there like 2 weeks ago. And like you see so much so many motifs and characterizations and the way the dragon is in so many sculptures in Barcelona is very unique. And so like I kind of compiled an idea from there, but in terms of painting it, that's from imagination. But in any event, like
That's
that
awesome.
drawing, that's what I've been like when I talk about like the AI and the sacred part for me, like that you see that drawing from like 20 years ago of like Herodotus, and then like those things would turn into like I think at some point in that little image sequence that you had there, like there's an image of like where then I started making things out in clay, and I was using a lot of clay maquettes at that time. The reason I sent it to you was like that's what I see you doing, and I
Yeah.
love that. So it's just so exciting, right?
Yeah. I
So
want
there's
to,
like a color
for
sketch from
some reason,
imagination.
it's not giving me like a strip down on the bottom where it's
Yeah,
supposed
so
to
I
do
have
that.
that too on my computer. It's so annoying, right?
Why isn't it doing that? It always
I
does
don't
it.
know.
All right, so I'll just have to randomly go through. Wait,
Oh, there,
I think I vaguely remember you posting about this guy.
if you go all the way to the right on that screen, will the arrow appear to the right? Like if you go all the way to the right on the gray screen, like midway up, like go higher, like halfway, like I didn't know.
Yeah,
Sometimes
well,
like the
usually I
arrow
push
appears.
this button down here but it only brings up one
Wow.
image, see? Isn't that
I
weird?
wonder if, yeah,
I don't know
yeah, it is.
why.
I don't know.
Something
I wonder
wrong.
if because I sent you a zipped
It
file,
might be
maybe it's
because it's
not.
zipped. Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go to the next one there, like I want you to see, like if you can remember which one that is,
That was
like
number
the next one
5.
over. Okay. Oh, so there I made, so based on that,
Wow.
like that was,
Dude,
so that's
that is
before, that
awesome.
was maybe like
I
6 months
love
or
it.
so when I did that, I realized that's why this boat got made that I have now. Because I was like,
I
that's
don't
not
know.
cutting it.
I'm laughing because it's so crude and I've totally done these. They're hilarious. It's like,
It's
but
the best,
it
right?
works,
It's so
but it
magical.
looks so ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
But mine look like this too sometimes. Oh my gosh, that whale looks pretty impressive though. Did you sculpt that out of clay?
Yeah, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
just like, yeah, whatever.
But oh my gosh, that boat and the paper guy, that is
So yeah,
hilarious.
so stupid. I love it though.
I'm so glad you brought these.
And so then okay, so that right there. So what happened was is this. So this is like right after my studies, right? I didn't know what I
Yeah.
was doing. I had like a minimum wage job. I had no idea what was going to happen. So what happened was like I was living in Mystic, Connecticut, and that's why the whaling stuff kind of got interesting to me at that
Yeah.
time because of the historic whaling village there. But he's from that composition you just saw. He was the guy that was over the side. What happened, and you
Okay.
see part of the whale. What happened is the painting just blew up in my face because it was horrible. I didn't know how to compose. I didn't know how to do it. But then I liked him as, bad as it looks now. But like at the time, I was like, I like him. And so I cropped the painting down to that. And this was like one of like 3 or 4 paintings at like whatever, like early age, right after my studies, that got me into my first gallery. And it
The
was like,
cropped
it's like
version, this right here.
yeah, yeah.
No
Like
kidding.
this and a few others, like got me into a gallery and like started selling work that was like, this stuff. And it was like, but the lesson there was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I
Yeah.
had some ambitious painting you just saw. I built this maquette. I tried, it blew up in my face. I still found a piece of the painting to cut out and restretch. And like, I kept going and I got it done and I made a painting that got me in a gallery. You know what I mean? And it's like, to
That's
me, there's
great.
some lesson there.
I'm glad you shared that. I mean, that's a good story for any aspiring artist. Yeah, man, I don't know which one to
There's
click.
too many. I know you don't have the thumbnails, so it's like,
Yeah,
it's a
that's so
shot in the dark.
strange. Oh
Oh,
my
so
gosh, I'm
that's
glad I clicked the right one. Wait, that's digital.
okay. Yeah. So what happened here? This, I don't know when this was. This might have been like 10. This was at the height of what you remember we were talking early on about my videos and the Blender
Yeah,
and the 3D
yeah,
animations. So this is when I was like, I'm going to see what I can do. And this is kind of interesting because this is like a big philosophical question, right? Like
right.
it introduces topics that we haven't even talked about, like working from photography versus life, which I think is a conversation that's worth having. And I know you've had.
Yeah.
There's the conversation we had about AI, right? Well, here I was making these three-dimensional like clay maquettes. I have this boat. The boat is really nice, but it's at one point in time I'm doing this cardboard boat. And then there was this point in time where it was like, now I have all these Blender skills from these videos and these tutorials I've been making. And so I started trying to like, now there's two parts of this that I think are interesting, and maybe we'll talk in the future because I don't want to go too far down a wormhole, but, or rabbit hole rather. Not a wormhole, that's different. But I
That'd be
think that,
fun.
I think that what's interesting is number one, when I transitioned into Blender after years of teaching concepts about light, material, light transmitting through forms, it basically solidified a lot of concepts and corrected some mistakes I was making about how light worked, because you're putting it into this real, I'm not real, but you're putting it into this virtual simulator. And so like, it was really like when you make that water, when you make the reflection, like whatever it is, like you have to like hook all these nodes up in the shaders at the time. And like, you really test your knowledge about these things.
Hmm.
So there was this part of it that like really solidified my conceptual ideas about light and form and things like that. But then there was also this idea of, it's like, okay, like at this time, I was like this very devout, you only work from life. I teach at GCA. I'm not going to mess with the political structure here. Like, and so like,
Hmm.
it was like, what am I doing here exactly? Like, I don't know if it's a photo, but it's a flat image that I generated that now I'm partially painting from. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's weird. It's weird. And so like you got into this mixed, world at the time where it was like, what am I painting from? It made me feel like cognition was the defining thing, like interpretation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like whether you're looking at a photo reference and compiling an idea and sort of a virtual hologram in your mind of how it's made, and you're
Mm-hmm.
painting from that. And so if that consisted in part from Blender generated images, maquettes, live models, so on and so forth. But I think there was this period of time where I was transitioning from physical maquettes and sort of testing my skills with these, software. So that's what that was.
So where did you land
Well, my in terms of what?
in terms of you're? I'm assuming you're not just working from life anymore, or are you?
No, no,
Okay,
no. I
so
mean,
where is your border? Like, where is your hard line now?
well, I'm kind of like you. I saw you. I think you said maybe you were saying this. I don't know if you were saying this with Jacob or someone. Obviously, that one stands out to me because of my personal, relationship with that world. Um, but you may have been having this conversation with someone else where I think at some point in time you said your hard line was AI, and I will say to whatever degree that I'm kind of there with you
Hmm.
on that one. Um, Now I can say a number of statements. Like number one, like I'll say two things. So a few things rather. So I'm moving back towards working from life again.
Mm-hmm.
I work in large part, or a large part of my time working now is from imagination, really trying to push like what I've assembled conceptually and how far I can take it.
Yeah.
That is limited to what I have templates for, meaning like I've painted a lot of faces. I'm going to do that better from imagination than something I have painted far less, right?
Right.
So I have extreme limitation when I work from imagination, but I love it. I find it very fascinating. It's hard for me to convert that into teaching content, and so I have some issues in that regard. But I also do work from a photo. My large overarching story, and I think for you it was COVID. COVID was a real turning point for me. My first 10 years professionally, I did every single thing I could do, even if it meant skipping meals, to live up to that ideal of working from life.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was about a 5 year period, had kids, like had to be responsible. There's certain projects I had to finish, and more, and maybe during this period of time when I was augmenting with like digital images like this, and then that kind of made me feel like, okay, maybe I can supplement with a photograph when I just simply can't afford to have this person for the next 10 hours
Mm-hmm.
because I've already paid for 40. And so I started to supplement. And then when COVID hit, it was like, well, I'm not going to, I'm a figurative painter. I want to paint, I'm still going to do this. And that kind of also timed out with when I was doing Patreon, where it was like I was trying to make videos that people could follow along with. So having a reference that they could work from. I've been teaching online for 12 years. So there was a large period of time there in the late 2010s where I was teaching online and I was working with people who were working from photography. So I was building all of this experience, problem solving with them, like how you can transcend the photograph, which I know is probably problematic to some people
Mm-hmm.
who hear that. But I was like, okay, like this is about interpretation. You look at that forehead, foreheads, right? Like you don't have to look at it as a set of pixels that you're copying. Like in your mind, you can see their forehead, imagine sculpting it, understand where the light's coming from, have a color structure. If you're photographing your own model, take pictures all the way around them so you can assemble a more sort of sculptural sense of them. Scan into your mind a three-dimensional model of them and paint from that sort of concept. Now, that being said, and I'll make this statement and pause after this, I wholeheartedly, I mean, this is the only sensible conclusion to what I just said. If you're painting from this hologram in your mind, the best hologram you'll get is from observing from life.
Right.
So my argument is that working from life, like I remember you saying at some point, I don't mean to keep quoting you, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I love your point of view on things. I remember you talking about like a challenge that you wanted to prove to yourself at some point. I see it as that. I
Mm-hmm.
also can't, working from life is best. It's a
Yeah.
privilege. I can't afford it. I'm trying now to find a way to do it because I love still life painters. My friend Doug was mostly a still life painter. My friend Danny loved still life. They would pick still life even if they had the option of having a figure all day long. They'd pick still life because they love still life.
Yeah.
For me, I want to paint people, and I literally can't afford it like all the time, and I want to,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to contrive situations
Well,
to
not to
do it
mention
more
the
often.
time. I mean,
Yeah,
you're not selling paintings right now, so it's not exactly the same thing. But for if you're making your living selling paintings and you have to wait on the model's schedule, that's a huge
yeah.
money drain. You're like, I got to get this painting done, and they can't come back till next Thursday.
Well,
That's the sacrifice a
right.
lot of people don't think about.
I think it depends on where you are. Like if you're in New York City, you have a lot of professional models who have much more consistent schedules. When I moved to Connecticut, in rural Connecticut, like I like Mystic, like other side of the state, not New York, near New York City. Like I think it's probably different now because it's very near,
Mm-hmm.
the Lime Academy, and I would assume they have all, full-time models. But when I lived in that part of Connecticut, it was impossible to find somebody who could model more than a couple times a week.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, and I don't hire professional models because they're freaking expensive. So
Yeah, they're really,
I
yeah,
hire friends, I hire people off the street, whatever I can
yeah.
find. But professionals, man, they want to get paid a lot. Can't
Well,
afford it.
I was painting my kids up until they found it intolerable.
The only one in my family I can't paint is my wife. My kids love being
Oh,
painted. They love it. They want me to paint them. But
oh,
my
that's so funny. My kids are so completely and totally ambivalent about every single thing I do artistically.
well, there's been stages though. My kids are older.
Yeah,
So my kids are
yeah,
22, and 18. So it's different. But when they were little, they weren't. I mean, there were stages, but anyway. But dude,
yeah,
okay, so we're you got to pick up your kid in 15 minutes, right?
yeah, yeah. I do. I do.
So
I do. Yeah, yeah.
this absolutely has to be a two-parter. We haven't even gotten to your work. So I've
Yeah,
already got a
I'd love to
commitment
show you
from
more.
you.
Like I have like the big question mark is like, does Scott finish paintings? And in fact, I do, and maybe we can
I
talk about
know.
that.
So we're going to do
Yeah.
a two-parter. Next week is Micah. Can I have you back the week after and we'll finish this
I'm
thing?
I'm in Scotland. Can we do it either end of March or April?
Okay, we'll do it end of March. I'll email you
Yeah,
when we get done and we'll get this done because we need a part 2 on this. This has
yeah.
been,
I
dude,
this
this
is
has been so much fun talking to you. I'm not even going to ask you
yeah.
the last
Likewise, it's
question.
awesome.
I'm not going to ask you the last question because that's the end of part 2. We can just wrap up. But dude, it's been so much fun. I can't wait to pick your brain more. I've got so many more questions. And
Yeah.
dude, you're a stud to talk to too. Fun guy to talk to.
No, likewise, Jeff. Like to me, this is like the best. Like I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm glad. All right, so I'll be in touch.
All right,
I'll
man.
send you an email. We'll schedule something and get back on it in a couple weeks or a month or whatever.
Yeah, and
So
tell Mike like I like your guys' I love all your conversations, but when you two get together, like I learn so much. Like honestly, it's the best. Like your Van Dyke one, your Rubens one. The Rubens one was so inspiring. So I'm excited for the
I'm glad.
whatever you guys
Well, it's
have
all
next. I
Micah.
can't wait.
It's all Micah. But thank you. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
All right, man.
yeah.
Well, have a good
All
one.
right,
Thanks again.
you too, man.
Take
I'll see you
care.
soon. Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Undraped Artist Podcast. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. And if you could, leave a comment or review. That really helps the channel. Please share the show with your friends, and if you're feeling generous, consider a monthly donation at theundrapedartist.com. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.